Have you ever stopped to wonder why our favorite love stories, the books, the movies, why they all seem to follow the exact same script? Well, it turns out the answer might just reveal a fundamental secret about how our entire world is put together.
I mean, really think about it. From Hollywood blockbusters to romance novels, the whole story is built on the chase, right? The drama, the will they, won't they tension. But the second they finally get together, say, I do, boom, the credits roll. Why do our stories stop right where happily ever after is supposed to begin? All right, to solve this little puzzle, we have to look under the hood. We need to find the powerful engine that's driving all of these stories, and it's an ancient force with a very specific name. That engine is called Eros. Now, this is not the cozy, comfortable kind of love, oh no. Eros is that ache, that passionate, almost painful longing for something you just don't have. And that's the key right there. It is a desire that is born from lack. By its very nature, Eros can only exist when something is missing. So here's the big insight. Desire actually needs distance to survive. It literally feeds on separation. Think of Romeo and Juliet. Their whole epic romance is fueled by the one fact that they cannot be together. You take away that barrier, and that passionate longing, Eros itself, it just evaporates. The classicist Anne Carson, she actually gave this separation a name. She called it the barrier. And her description is just incredible. She says the barrier's purpose is to keep desire hungry by organizing the story around a radiant absence. I mean, I love that phrase. It means the person you love isn't just a person. They become this glowing void, this beautiful emptiness that the lover is desperate to fill. So you've got the lover and you've got the beloved. But this barrier thing, it's not just some obstacle in the way. It's a core part of the whole structure. In fact, Carson calls it the essential third thing in any story about desire. So see, it's not a straight line connecting two people. It's actually a triangle. You have the lover, the beloved, and right there in the middle, creating all the energy, is the barrier. It could be anything, right? Feuding families, different social classes, even a simple misunderstanding. It's this three-part setup that generates all the tension in the story. And that brings us right back to our original question. Why do the stories end at I do? Well, because the wedding, or the final kiss, that's the moment the barrier is finally gone. The separation disappears, the longing is fulfilled, Eros vanishes. And so the story has nowhere else to go. It's over. Okay, so this whole framework perfectly explains why love stories end at the altar. But here's where it gets really, really interesting. What if this isn't just some rule for storytelling? What if this idea of a creative separation is a fundamental principle that's woven into the very fabric of reality itself? Let's just ask that question directly. Is this idea of a necessary creative opposition, this barrier, is it something we can see in other parts of our lives? Maybe even in how we understand our own selves? To put this idea to the test, let's try applying this principle of creative opposition to one of the most complex conversations we're having today, gender. And what's interesting is we can find a really powerful way to think about it, not in some modern theory, but in a very, very ancient idea. Today's conversation about gender often gets framed in one of two ways. Either it's a strict binary, two distinct options, or it's a completely fluid spectrum. But what if both of those models are missing a crucial third option? What if the real key lies in the idea of duality? So, for a second, let's just put those other ideas aside. And I want you to consider a different metaphor, one that comes from the philosophy of Yin and Yang. I want you to picture a mountain. In Taoist philosophy, Yin and Yang weren't originally these big abstract forces. The idea was incredibly concrete, really simple. They are just the shady side and the sunny side of the exact same mountain. They are total opposites, right? Defined by light and shadow, and yet they are inseparable parts of a single thing. And this is where this metaphor gets so powerful. Because if you look closer, even on the sunny side of the mountain, a tree casts a shadow, right? And a single ray of sunlight can find a crack on the shady side. Each side contains a piece of the other. One literally cannot exist without its opposite. So in this way of thinking, the binary is also non-binary. It's this beautiful, mind-bending paradox. So now let's bring these two huge ideas, the barrier in our love stories and the two sides of the mountain, let's bring them together for the final takeaway. Let's put it all together. On one hand, you have desire, which needs a barrier, a separation, just to exist. And on the other hand, you have duality, like the two sides of the mountain, defined by an opposition that also creates a whole. Do you see the connection? In both cases, all the meaning, all the energy, it comes from that necessary creative tension between two things. And this is the core insight. The lover and the beloved are two separate people, yet they form one story. The shady and sunny sides are totally distinct, yet they form a single mountain. In both cases, you have something that is, at the exact same time, a duality and a unity. The separation is precisely what creates the whole. So I'll leave you with this to think about. If our stories, and maybe even reality itself, are built on these necessary barriers and these creative tensions, what are the oppositions in your own life that give it shape and meaning? What are the mountains and what are the barriers that define your world?